ち目はない。
私が勝てばうちの子になってくれるね。それに暑いな。
I'm literally gonna wait for you. And I see you're gonna be like, nah, I'm not gonna like it. I'm just keep watching.
Just subscribe.
And you think the clip gonna cut right here, but it's not, because I'm still waiting for you to click that like button. And the subscribe and the post notification button.
The winter anime season is coming to a close, and with that comes the end of a lot of anime that we watched this season. But also we look forward to new anime that's coming up. But I thought that it would be important that we kind of reflect on all of the awesome anime that we got this season. Because with the new season and the new year, you get a new kind of lease on life, and all of this anime in front of you to start the year is pretty exciting. But what if I told you that this season actually wasn't like that?
What?
Because this season surprisingly was dominated by two anime that were actually from last year, in which you have Frieren, who dominated the season because, you know, Frieren is Frieren at this point. Ask my anime list. But there was one other anime that was right there with Frieren.
何の話をしてたんだ?
Now if you know a little bit about Apothecary Diaries, it's an anime that came out last year, and since then it has been amazing because, well, this is my second video on it, and the reason why I'm doing a second video on this anime is because it's just that good. But for me to explain to you why this anime is back again on this channel, well, I have to tell you what the anime is about once again, and so I'll try and tell you about this anime as fast as I can.
Ready. Set up.
So basically what happens is we have a character called Maomao. Maomao gets kidnapped and then she's taken into a palace. What happens at this palace? Basically a place where an emperor deposits stuff in his wives. And yes, I said wives because you know, emperor stuff.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
But basically she's put in that palace and she has to be a servant, basically working for one of the concubines. But then, as you would kind of expect if you've ever watched a show like Game of Thrones or anything like that, a lot of drama happens around the kingdom. But then one day Maomao is forced into a situation where she has to help one of the concubines with a pretty gruesome situation where her child was ill. And Maomao does that. But then to reward Maomao for all of this, they decide to make her a poison tester.
Bruh.
But little did they know that Maomao is sadistic and messed up, so she likes being poisoned. So ultimately what happens in part 1 is that she basically goes around the castle and she's solving all of these kind of mysteries and helping out sick people and figuring out who's gonna get poisoned, and that's pretty much it. So then at the end of part 1, it is decided that Maomao is free because essentially she was a slave and she is allowed to basically do whatever she wants. But she was solving crimes at such an astonishing rate that they decided, hey, we want to bring you back again, but could you do it without the slavery? And well, Maomao seemed interested, so she's back again and she's basically solving crimes, and that is generally the gist of this anime.
Stop the clock!
But if you thought that, then you would be kind of making a mistake, because the thing about this anime is that it is a very good anime at blending the light and the dark. Because the interesting thing about this anime is that, well, yes, we know that Maomao is always going to solve crimes and she's going to do her thing, but it's able to perfectly blend light and dark in such a way that it's actually pretty confusing. Because you have a character like Maomao who's fun-loving and just jokey, but she's legit just tasting poison all of the time, which could potentially kill her. But she does it in such a funny way that for her as an individual who used to have a job as a poison taster and she survived, which is pretty pretty crazy. That was fun for her. So now when she comes back and she gets an opportunity to sometimes deal with situations that have poison, she's super excited, which is pretty messed up because that is a weird dynamic to have, because a lot of the people within this anime are actually being killed, and generally it's through poisoning or murder or sometimes just like weird situations. But Maomao is able to make those situations funny, which they shouldn't be, but they are for her because she's able to basically have fun. And you see this within the anime because the anime has this weird thing where like it will take you through a whole day of the characters having fun, they laugh, they joke, you just relax and you just enjoy yourself because it's that fun of an anime. It's just interesting to hear them speak, which is just weird.
I have no friends, and that's perfectly all right.
But it's that good. But then all of a sudden you hear a god come and tell them that, hey, we found a lady down in a dam, she was abandoned and she's dead. And it's like, oh, someone actually got killed.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
And then they have to go and try and help out, which is always weird to me because this anime is able to be one of the most warm and glowing anime that you can get, but it's extremely dark. Like there are a lot of subjects that are discussed in this anime that are pretty dark, from abuse, poisoning, murder, assassinations, anything you can think of that could happen within a kingdom, they're there. But this anime is legit an anime that you can tell somebody, hey, watch this anime, it's actually pretty fun. Which is weird, but this anime is able to play with that blend so well. There's this scene, and I'm gonna spoil something, but there's this scene where Maomao has basically figured out a crime, and she's figured out that they're trying to set up a situation where a high official will probably get assassinated, but it's gonna look as if it was an accident. So she rushes to that situation to kind of help out, but then there's a guard in the way, and she tries to tell the guard that someone needs help, please let me through. But the issue is she's not of the high status enough to actually get in there, so the guard doesn't let her in. No matter how many times she pleads and asks for assistance, the guard doesn't help her at all, until Maomao gets so frustrated that she actually insinuates that the guard might be involved. And in a split second, this guard did not even think twice. Like he just swung this huge, I don't even know what it was, it's like a baton or something, but like just swung it and hit her head. And as Maomao is kind of bordering between being unconscious and conscious, she's realizing the whole situation that she stepped out of line. Because that's the interesting thing about this anime. Yes, she's the hero, but in that type of situation, she has to realize that she's a woman and she's speaking to a man at that point in time. And for her to speak that way to a man would make him furious. And they can get away with these types of things because at that time, it wasn't that big of a deal. And these subjects are sprinkled throughout the anime because a lot of the things that seem funny or weird to us are actually pretty messed up, but because of that time in that period, it's kind of accepted. The whole concept of a concubine is weird when you really think about it, because some of these women are married to the emperor because of political reasons, or whether they love him, or maybe they're actually forced into that situation. Whether they love him or not, it doesn't really matter, which kind of makes you look at that situation differently, because these women were probably living their own lives, but now they're forced in a competitive environment in which they might potentially be killed because someone's just jealous of them, and they now have to live this life because an individual just finds them attractive, and they then have to bear children for this individual whether they like it or not, and they kind of have to force themselves to actually just accept the situation and try and survive. But this anime just glides through these types of things that you just see them as normal at this point, that this emperor has 4 women that he calls his, well, wives, so to speak. It's kind of a weird dynamic seeing all of these women together, and you realize that they're not really united. They're just separate entities forced to be in one place.
Everything that's going on in my bedroom?
Listen, we all share what's going on in our lives.
Same thing with where Maomao comes from. Maomao comes from the pleasure district. If you know what that means that she comes from an area where a lot of
Hey, baby!
but also you would know that that type of environment has a lot of unsavory individuals who are rather aggressive or a bit dangerous. if you know what I mean. So Maomao has to basically change the way that she looks just so that she doesn't draw attention in those type of places, but yet that's where she calls home. More of these things are sprinkled within this anime, but because Maomao and all the characters are so used to it, it's just normal. And a lot of characters are afraid to overstep their boundaries because they're afraid of, well, what might happen. Because if you think about some of the things that happened during that time, you could try and help an individual out but end up being executed.
Off with his head!
So it's always this game of chess where an individual has to decide whether to really make a move or not based on the circumstances. But because this anime does a pretty good job of making the anime so much fun that you sometimes forget the dark side of this anime. But it's only within the dark moments where someone is dying or someone has been assassinated or something has happened that you kind of snap back into that world and really see it for what it is. But also the thing about this anime that makes it so interesting is that even though you know Maomao will always figure things out, it's not about the destination but more of the journey, because it's very interesting to see how Maomao breaks down these things step by step, and when she's done figuring out the situation, she tells you the story in its entirety, not just what you saw. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of shows have that hold on you. That's why you have a show like The Mentalist or Sherlock Holmes. You see the result. You usually start the story with the person who's deceased or something had happened, so you know what's the end product. But it's the interesting aspect of breaking down the story that leads up to that final moment that really captivates you. And this is what this anime does to another level. It's just insane, because Maomao has this thing about her where when she's breaking things down, you're just as invested as everyone else trying to figure out what's going on. Because yes, she has an idea of what might have happened, but the certainty is never really there, because there have been cases where she thought something happened only to realize that it wasn't exactly the way she thought it was, but she kind of got close to what it was. And that's the fun thing about this anime, the whole speculation, the mystery, because I don't know how many times I thought I knew something about a character or what was going on, only to find out that I was wrong. Yes, I know that on a negative light, it's not that interesting to watch a character who is, well, always gonna get the answers and always seems to figure things out. So the predictability of this anime can be a bit annoying, but I think that the anime does it in such a pretty smart way that it's not really that annoying, because it makes up for it in a lot of things. So you have an anime that has a pretty challenging story that can keep you captivated from a week-to-week basis, which it was doing. And also the one thing that's underrated about this anime is the animation. The animation itself is impeccable. Like, it's crazy. Every single episode had such amazing animation. But the thing about this anime that shined the most to me was the music. The music that this anime had was amazing. The openings and the endings. You just have to watch the opening, because the first opening is a banger. The second opening was a sleeper. It's amazing. So basically what you have here is an anime that just surprised everyone. This anime that came out of nowhere was able to dominate anime. I don't think the second season will go under the radar, because it's an anime that has left its mark, and I'm pretty excited to see what's gonna happen.